Yes. Welcome to Mindful Life. Welcome to Mindful Life number 63. I am Nathan Springer, your host. Who else will it be? And I am happy to have you here. It's good to see all of you. As I'm not seeing you, it's good to see all of your comments and all of the likes. Make sure to hit that like wherever you are viewing this live. If you are over on TikTok, if you are over on Instagram, or over on YouTube, yes, there's the live stream over on YouTube. Make sure to go over there and subscribe to my channel, Nathan Spring on YouTube. And what you can find there is the recording of most of the other lives. If you missed piece and you're wondering what did he talk about in the previous live, well, you could go over on YouTube and find that out there. There are quite a few videos over on YouTube. If you are interested in that, go over there, subscribe, Nathan Spring on YouTube. If you are in the live here, make sure to hit that like button so you know it goes out further. Yes, but today we are talking about, at least at the beginning, whistleblowers. We're talking about whistleblowers today at the beginning because our opposition brought up a topic about whistleblowers and whistleblowers coming to her and revealing some interesting news. A whistleblower told our opposition leader that people are being spied on in this country. Yes. Serious stuff. Kamala, government spying on media, business owners, judiciary board directors. The spying seems all around. And there's a video of it here. You could actually hear what Mrs. Prasad Bisesa had to say. Let's see if we could play that.
How the Rowley government acquiring Israeli software.
Now, as I say regularly, I struggle to listen to politicians on one speed. Like, should I really sacrifice so many minutes to some politicians? So I usually listen it on a little speed. Listen carefully.
I warned you all about the Rowley government acquiring the Israeli software Pegasus program to hack into citizens' WhatsApp communications and other communications. Tonight I can confirm that...
Now, I find the slurring of citizens to be a familiar symptom. Never.
The government did in fact acquire this software, and they have been illegally spying on citizens, various social media platforms, WhatsApps, emails, and so on. A whistleblower has provided me with information regarding this widespread electronic spying. I've also been provided with names of persons who have been spied upon. However, we have been alerting persons privately because of safety concerns. The list of persons being spied on include members of the media, reporters and editors, members of the judiciary, senior judiciary and magistrates, state agencies spying on their own board appointees, trade unions, members of government, yes, they're spying on their own MPs and senators, and of course, they must be spying on the opposition. We know that. It's not the first time. Also being illegally monitored are members of the business community, from the chambers of commerce, lawyers associated both with the UNC and the PNM, and of course persons in other political parties.
Just by the way, from the list that the opposition is speaking about here, she's basically saying that everyone is being spied on. Business leaders, lawyers, ministers, private citizens, journalists, opposition members, government, everyone is being spied on according to the opposition leader's whistleblower report.
Also accessing the media, the emails and text messages for these persons and storing it. So remember, every email message in all folders within these persons' email accounts, they have been accessing them and storing them. I would ask you to delete it. They access your WhatsApp by sending you a message, and when you click on it, the software infects your phone. They can read your WhatsApp messages in real time, as you're sending and receiving them. And therefore, I am advising all of you, always delete your WhatsApp messages. Delete them. Once you're done, delete. So they can catch it in real time and of course store it. But if you delete as you go along, I warned you all.
Like, how does this make sense? Somebody explain this to me. Like, I mean, I didn't do a degree in any tech anything, but I've been digging up in phones and computers for quite a long time now. I think I have at least a rudimentary understanding of some tech stuff. If they are hacking your phone, and reading your WhatsApp messages, how does deleting it help? The software that she's alleging that the government is using is the Pegasus software. Now, here's the thing. That is real. The Pegasus software is created by NSO, I believe, out of Israel. An Israeli company that created the Pegasus software. End-to-end encryption on WhatsApp doesn't work anymore. Yes, it does. But what the Pegasus software does is they'd send you a message, and on your WhatsApp, they send you a message to click the link. If you click the link, the software downloads onto your computer, and it basically functions as a Trojan horse. Again, that's kind of the name Pegasus. Remember, Pegasus was the winged horse. So it's, as it were, a winged Trojan horse that could come into your device from anywhere. Now, Pegasus has been used. Listen, let's not make Tanti Cams sound fully like a crazy person, because it's not true. The lady is talking about some verifiable information. Pegasus has been used by governments all around the world. This is known. Pegasus has been used. They tap into people's computers, tap into people's phones, and they can read your messages in live as you do it. And what they do with WhatsApp, it's not that they end the end-to-end encryption, it's that they can actually steal the packets of data from your phone and transfer it to another device. Now, here's the thing. If they're stealing packets of data from your phone and sending it to another device, deleting it does nothing. Listen, if they really are spying on you, you need to switch your device. Deleting it does nothing. They already stored it. It's like, you know when you're on WhatsApp and you say delete, and they ask you if to delete for everyone or delete for you only. What you're doing is deleting for you only. It deletes for you only. That's what happens. And not on iPhone, someone says. Here's the thing. It has been found to work on iPhone before. Now, I believe in 2016, they found it on an iPhone, and Apple did some upgrades to make sure that it couldn't work on that iPhone anymore. But Pegasus keeps doing upgrades also, and I believe since 2016, it has been found to be working on iPhones. And it's always a battle. It's always a battle. It's the manufacturer versus these legal hackers, and they say that they have legal documents that anyone who buys their software must only use it for legal purposes. All right, okay, good for you, NSO over in Israel, but yeah, that's the battle. And here's the thing. Usually you will not know that it can work on an iPhone unless it is caught working on an iPhone. And one of the first times it was caught, I believe, was in 2016, and there is chatter, there are parts left in the program itself. When you look at the program and you look at the skeletal structure of the design of the program, there are parts that show it could be traced possibly back to 2008 even. The program has been existing for quite some time without public knowledge. So who knows where it is and how it is. So that's to say, what the opposition leader is speaking about here isn't being made up out of whole cloth. She is speaking about something that is a reality to some extent. Now, does the Trinidad and Tobago government have control of Pegasus software? I don't know. I do not know if that is true. She alleges it. She says a whistleblower has information that the government has that. Now, one of the things that I find so strange in Trinidad and Tobago, I am not sure how our secret agencies like that would function. And for example, she's saying that a whistleblower here, she has a whistleblower that has told, this whistleblower would have to have access. Understand this. If we are to believe what the opposition leader is saying there, this whistleblower has to have access to the entirety of the information of whichever secret agency is in charge of the spying. Because the whistleblower knows everyone that is being spied on. This whistleblower has to be high up inside of that agency. She went on though. She went on.
This is being done with the assistance of police officers. I know there are many great, good police officers, but we know that some officers who are closely affiliated with certain high members of government, they are assisted in this task. Some of these officers were handpicked and placed into positions to conduct this illegal spying. In one instance, a police constable, who is a friend with a minister, has been put to monitor WhatsApp messages, a police constable. When we passed the interception law in this country, we made it very clear that only those of a certain rank would be able to intercept, and only then after proper procedure was carried out. But all of this, I'm told, is happening now. They're spying on WhatsApp messages of their own members. Anyone they think may be a threat to Rowley's leadership is also being spied upon. They're also monitoring the phones of the spouses of certain PNM persons. Certain members of this government are suffering from paranoia, and they're desperate to find anyone they believe are against them. Faris Arawi has already become a victim of this illegal monitoring of WhatsApp messages, and there are others from within the government who may become future victims of this illegal activity.
Listen, as someone rightfully asked inside of the chat here, if everybody being spied on, who doing the spying? Who is the spy? If everyone is a victim, who is the perpetrator? I am confused. I am confused. Like, if you were saying that the government came together and was spying on the opposition, that's more believable. They have a cross against ideological and partisan lines. But people within the government, like, here's why that's so hard to believe. Okay, if we're thinking about the PNM, I think there would be people that the PNM would hire. If you're, I'm trying to give life to this conspiracy. Let's say that the whistleblower is right. There's some agency conducting all of this spying. There would have to be some people there that the PNM trusts. And the PNM as an organization very likely would have put those people in that position at the start. Do you think that those people in those positions would have only been loyal to Dr. Rowley? Here's the thing. The problem she is describing is actually more of a problem for the UNC than it is a problem for the PNM. The PNM does not actually have that supreme leader loyalty. Again, I shouldn't have to keep saying this whenever I speak about this. Sorry, but this is not me speaking necessarily pro or against any party. I'm just speaking about the reality as we see it. The PNM is a party that is very institutional. A lot of the problems that I and many people have with the PNM is their overly institutionalized kind of structure. That's the way they function. So are you trying to tell me that somehow in this institution that has existed for so many decades, that somehow this supreme leader, Dr. Keith Rowley, came into the PNM within the last 7 years and got so much control of everything in the PNM that he is able to appoint an entire security agency out there to spy on even his own political members, as high up as Mr. Faris Al-Rawi himself. Really, are we to believe that? Now, I don't mind believing some far out things, but I think some evidence is needed, and I mean the reading from a paper from a political platform in Trinidad and Tobago, we have become kind of familiar with that, and all of that doesn't always add up. You see, it's not the first time that the opposition leader brought up such a topic, and the videos, as someone also mentioned, are out there on Twitter and the journalist Keishan Haynes' profile if you're so interested, and he also linked to an article way back in 2010 when Ms. Prasad Bisasa basically brought up the same accusation, basically in the same way again previously. A whistleblower brought these allegations. So, government admits that secret intelligence agency has been spying on journalists. Now, this article is actually slanted. That's not what the government admitted. If you read the details, it was an allegation that was sent out there by the opposition. Trinidad Prime Minister Kamala Prasad Bisasa has revealed to Parliament that a government offshoot called the Security Intelligence Agency has been operating for the past 15 years without the general public's knowledge and has been illegally tapping telephones and intercepting emails. Its targets have included politicians, judges, trade unionists, entertainment personalities, and journalists. Here's the super strange thing with this SIA. Oh, you remember good names there, Mr. Richard Glubman. You remember names. You're remembering important names. Now, Ms. Prasad Bisasa came out with these allegations. We have an SIA in Trinidad that is spying on people, and the government was in control of them. Now, here's the reality. This organization was in existence across many different governments. It wasn't one government, one political party that had control over this organization. They were there in different incarnations with each government. So it's not something to pin on one government. And the reality is most governments in the modern world have some kind of security agency that is more on the secretive side. That's just the reality. Now, the thing is, Ms. Fasad Bisasa brought up this as some whistleblower revelation that she brought. Now, here's the thing. The allegations were pretty obvious that the whistleblower she had back then was one young lady that worked inside of that agency that did not have certain qualifications to qualify for certain positions inside of that agency. And strange enough, she was placed in those positions inside of that spying agency. The opposition leader that was up in arms about the government spying on people took the alleged whistleblower and placed her in control of the spying agency. Then when she was found out and it made news, she was fired. And I believe a couple months or a year later, it was found out that actually she was rehired to lead another form of the organization. If I recall correctly, I think that happened twice. Like, she was found in a place, she removed from that place, sent to another place, then it was found out she was there, removed from that and sent. Like, someone had a serious debt to pay for that young lady. Someone had a serious debt they had to repay for that. Jack Warner made a serious allegation. Ooh, you're getting in depth into... Listen. Some people try to make it seem like Trinidad isn't willing to try change. Trinidad went 2010 for that People's Partnership. But if you remember the news, it's kind of unfortunate that the amount of attention we pay now to the news wasn't being paid back in that 5-year span. Listen, that 5-year span had enough to make movies. There could be trilogies made out of that 5-year span. And here now, nothing missing out of it. It have there's the murder, there's murder, there's crime, there's honing, cheating, jealousy, fight between the outside woman and the next outside woman. You all probably mightn't even remember all of that, but whew, that time they took our country on a ride. They took our country on a ride. Wow. But yes, this same allegation of spying was brought up before. And the opposition leader is making the same allegation again. You know, the world stopped helping us with security for those 5 years. I am not surprised at all by that. I'm not surprised at all. I'm not at all. And one get the crispy expression. Live sport. And the thing with lives, when I speak about that, I always like to remember and remind that the country's probably preeminent prosecutor was murdered in a kind of Colombian style assassination on the roadway. During that span there, in case people think it's only like the movie about it would only be a comedy. No, that movie would not only be a comedy. There's a lot more to that. And there are direct links between the people that are being alleged for that and then people alleged for another proposed hit. And that other proposed hit was linked to a politician that was inside of the government. Strangely enough, he has made a comeback recently. Listen, so if you go back over some of those things, they are scary stuff. And It's so strange that the opposition, ooh, you're calling names. I am not going to read the names that you all call with these things, because if Dana Sita Hal could have gotten bumped off, what you all trying to do to the nice mindful life going on here? Yeah, and it's so strange that the opposition leader would mention whistleblowers and speak about being provided this information from whistleblowers. That's interesting. That's very interesting. Seeing as there has been whistleblower protection legislation that has been brought to the parliament, and you would think that the opposition that likes these whistleblowers, you would think that they would support this legislation. Krimak, I see you're quoting direct quotes from from the offending video. You are quoting direct quotes. You are a man schooled in the history of Trinidad Bacchanal. Yes, but it's so funny that the opposition did not support the whistleblower legislation. It's so strange. Opposition says no to whistleblower legislation. Opposition leader, and by the way, this was just back in February. This is from February 4th of this year. Opposition leader Kamala Prasad-Bisesa is of the view that whistleblower protection bill is a legal nightmare for citizens. Speaking during debate on the bill in the House of Representatives on Friday, Prasad-Bisesa said the law will be deemed unconstitutional in the courts, calling the bill in its current form a replica of a previous bill. She raised concerns with Clause 19, which she said tramples on citizens' rights. Prasad-Bisesa said this clause grants immunity to a person who has made a protected disclosure from any criminal, civil, or disciplinary proceedings. So basically in the legislation, the whistleblower legislation, if you made a revelation, a whistleblowing revelation, they cannot go and sue you about it in the courts. They cannot carry you to the criminal courts for it either. And she found that this was against the rights of the other citizens, that maybe she had it that as there's the possibility that someone can make a false declaration and the person being accused cannot take action. So somebody could lie on you and then you cannot sue them for it. But here's the thing. If you actually go and read the legislation instead of just listen to what the politicians say, you would actually see that the legislation has an eventuality for just that. That if it is seen that the declaration is false, then you are no longer protected under the whistleblower legislation. So it's not the reality. It's not that you don't have to be afraid of that. So the opposition may be worried about the whistleblower legislation for some other reason. Who knows why? And I see Jeremy Francis is here again, but this time there isn't even a question. Just saw it. Good night, Vanna 44. When is the next parliament session? Because it's going to be lit. I think it is. I agree. I do think it is going to be lit. And even on the topic of all these allegations and possible corruption, etc., 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 the opposition is seeming to try to mount pressure on the government. They are seeming to get more and more into the election mode. It seems like election mode is being turned on right now in the opposition. I see the opposition also questioning, and to be honest, I don't blame them for this because I question this too. I do find this a bit suspicious. Good night, Trav from Trini. What's up, man? There's so much things everyone turns a blind eye to. That's very true. Prison Gate also. Yeah, Prison Gate. But isn't Prison Gate still going through the legal system? Isn't it still going through the legal system? Listen, Richard Glubman, I think some night you need to come on the live and explain to Jeremy Francis about this whole sort business, because I don't know what Mr. Francis wants from me when it comes to sort or NOTF or whatever they are named now. Section 34. Yes, there's scandal after scandal. But the opposition leader is questioning now. Sorry. Why are we bringing back Clarence Rambrat? Now, I do find this to be a fair question. because Mr. Rambarat said that he was leaving politics because it was not going well with his work-family balance. And then all of a sudden now we're seeing him back. Something doesn't quite seem to add up there. Opposition leader Kamala Persad-Bissessar wants to know the real reason behind government bringing back Clarence Rambarat for an imaginary job weeks after he resigned as Minister of Agriculture, Land and Fisheries. Speaking the UNC's virtual platform meeting, he said that he was going to Canada to take care of his family, and now we are being told he's coming back to head something yet to be formed called the Single Point Land Management Authority. Saying her curiosity was piqued, continued, "You just fired the man. He cried and said he has to look after his wife and children, and you are bringing him back." Now, they didn't say they fired the man, Mrs. Persad-Bissessar. They did not say that. The man said he resigned. And to be honest, that kind of brings a bigger question. If you resigned, to go back over that, his family is in Canada. He said there was a plan in play before he entered politics. As he entered politics, he was not able to see his family as much, and the whole family life and work-life balance was not suitable. You're supposed to be before the court just like the other persons. I'm not sure who you're talking about in this case. So, I don't know. But here's something that I find interesting and that may answer this. They move back to Trini. Okay, but that's still not a good excuse. So, okay, are you saying that in the 2 weeks that lapsed, the family discussed all of this and changed their mind? That does not make sense. Are you saying they could not have discussed this in 2 weeks before he made his decision, and then they could have moved back to Trini and he still remained as agriculture minister? Are you saying it was only after he left the agriculture ministry job that then the family could have made this discussion that, you know what, we'd make concessions for you to go back into politics after you already resigned your substantive portfolio? That does not make sense. I am sorry, that does not add up. They didn't know he was serious. Rooney, stop it. It just doesn't add up to me. It really doesn't add up. But what kind of does add up, what could make sense, is that when he left with quite a few statements against the corruption that he found inside of this ministry. And he left with a tone making it sound, saying pretty much plainly that he was basically the only guy out there that was willing to make these revelations about the corruption that existed within these ministries. He made it sound like that was the case. And he did find quite a bit of national attention with some of those claims. I did a live, and in the live we spoke about this, and I spoke about it even in glowing terms. It's a good thing to see that a government minister would make that stand. So is it that he found some credibility on the anti-corruption in the land rights scope, and the government saw that, hey, that may be useful in another avenue? That actually makes more sense to me than the family moved back to Trinidad and they finally had the discussion and they decided that, hey, we are good with you in politics now. That does not make sense. The one that does make sense is that he got some credibility in the anti-corruption in the whole land scheme business. And with that public credibility that he got speaking against land corruption, they decided that now we can put him in an anti-land corruption agency that we're going to create. And it would give us some more political mileage. We can now get political mileage out of him, while that we may not have been able to get otherwise if he just remained on as the agriculture minister. Who knows? I think there was some more political maneuvering inside of this. I don't necessarily think that it was some falling out within the party and that they got vexed with him and fired him from the portfolio. I don't actually think so. I don't actually think so. I don't even necessarily think he realized water more than flour. I don't think like agriculture ministry was too much for him and he wanted to escape. No. I think a lot of this has to do with political motives. Motives about making their political party seem more appealing to the public. That's the main I think that's the main idea behind all of this. I don't think that Mr. Al-Rawi was moved because all of a sudden Dr. Rowley doesn't like him anymore. I don't actually think so. You see, the thing is, I don't necessarily think that their relationships are built on whether they like each other in the first place or not. Remember, Mr. Winston Gypsy Peters stood on the UNC platform for years lambasting the PNM and then went over to the PNM platform and hugged those people up. These people don't work on who likes them or not. They are pragmatists. They work on what works and what works for them. So, yeah. I don't think he was fired. He was one. If you were to do a survey, I would think that he would have been one of the more liked ministers. Even across political barriers, I would think so. And I think, as I said, if I were to guess a reason, I would guess that he got political credibility in the land anti-corruption business, in how he exited the Ministry of Agriculture, so they brought him back directly to serve in that kind of portfolio. Who knows if that was even the intention from the jump, that as agriculture minister, he couldn't tackle that corruption that he was alleging. They said that, you know what, we're going to create a new agency and you'd get to go in there and head that agency and you'd get to spend more time with your Canadian family through that. So here's what we're going to do. Move you from agriculture ministry. In 2 weeks, we'll add you back there and there. But in that 2 weeks, make sure to make the press circuit, because he did make the press circuit. Make the press circuit and make as much noise as you can about corruption in the whole land agencies in Trinidad and Tobago, so that when you are appointed to this position, people are going to say, yes, this is something that Trinidad and Tobago really needs, and this is the right man for the job. That actually makes the most sense, to me at least. To me. He's being used as a token. If I were to guess, I would guess closer to that. That would be closer to my guess, not the other far out there ways. I think, and that seems directly in line with political movements. High-profile shake-up to throw attention off of that very same point. Yeah, political maneuvering. That's what they do. I think that's more to do with it, more than anything else. It's like the same lady we were talking about in the SIA. They move from one spot to the other, but it's more to draw attention off of something. It's not like somebody heated her or something like that. Even the fallout between Mr. Jack Warner and the opposition leader right now, when they were in governance, it was to me, I understood the position that the UNC was in back then. The UNC did not distance themselves from Jack Warner until it became supremely necessary. There was nearly no other option. Like, what you would basically be seen as a criminal state on the global stage. This man is a wanted criminal in the United States of America, and then you'd have him as a functioning minister in your government. That just cannot happen. And it was not until it reached the last straw that they did that separation. So it wasn't even, in that case, it wasn't even a matter of they not liking him, or that that people found he was too corrupt to be in that position. No, it was that it was the last straw. There was no other option. So even in that sense, it was kind of unfortunate for the UNC, because by doing that, they drew the ire of Mr. Warner, who was basically one of the chief architects behind their victory back then in the first place. But they drew the ire of the man when they didn't really have much of a choice. What else were you going to do? Look like an international pariah by keeping a wanted criminal by the United States of America, of all places, on your cabinet? That just could not happen. But local government elections is coming up. And who knows, some of these political maneuverings may have something to do with that reality, that the local government elections is right around the corner. I remember I've been having in mind to do a program, to do some kind of content with one of the local government reps who regularly frequents the live. That hasn't come to fruition yet, unfortunately. That hasn't come to fruition yet, unfortunately, but we can hope for it to come soon. And I find that there needs to be quite a bit of explanation as it comes to local government. There's a lot going on in local government that many people don't really have a full understanding of, that people don't fully get what is going on here. I was looking at this article. To me, that shows a prime example of that. The Couva North MP says, fix market now. King Kaka, good night. How long you start? I start a little while, bro. We start with the stories about 40 minutes now, and we started with the live probably about nearly an hour now. So, yeah, you're a little late. But fear not. If you're missing what happened in the live, what happened with the stories of the night, you can join over on YouTube. You can go subscribe to my channel over on YouTube, Nathan Springer on YouTube. Good local content for you. Yes, good stuff. We talk about local stuff, information, news, or anything that comes across my view, not only local content. As I was pointing out to some people in the afterlife last night, I remember as they brought up something about this relationship guru, Kevin Samuels, I said I actually made a video on him. So if you like to see that also, you can go over to YouTube, Nathan Springer, search Nathan Springer, Kevin Samuels, you'd see that video also. So yes, there's quite a bit of content there on my YouTube channel, Nathan Springer over on YouTube. Be sure to go over there, subscribe, hit a like button, drop a comment, tell me what you think. But yes, this article that I saw coming out of Couva North. Now, to be fair, this is my constituency. Couva North is home. Couva North is home to me. And I was reading this, and it shows some of the confusion with the whole local government setup. Couva North Member of Parliament Ravi Rati Ram has called on the government to provide immediate funding to address a number of serious issues, including potential health hazards at the Shogunas market that have remained unresolved for far too long. Ratiram, who was responding to a March 19th Express article titled Vendors Shogunas Market in a Mess, noted that the article highlighted the plight of vendors at the market who have been using portable toilet units for some time now as a result of a failed sewer system. Yuck. In a news release, listen, market is a kind of place. Sub Sneaker Clan TT over on Instagram. Market is a kind of place. I find that many markets have too dirty a vibe for me. I'm sorry. Like, the vibe just feels a little dirty sometimes. And if the market people here are saying that part of the reason the vibe is dirty is because the people that are supposed to control the market are not doing their jobs, then that is on the government. That is on the government. If you're supposed to be upgrading these facilities, if you took the market vendors off of the streets, if you took them off of the corners, if you took them off of where they were congregating on their own and said, we're going to create a facility for you all to stay there. Okay. You kind of have to upkeep the facility. Listen, I'm sorry. I never liked the market runs. It kind of never went along well with me. I'm sorry. Like, moms, bring the market bags outside of the market for me, and I will tote all the bags you want from the market to the vehicle. But you see that inside the market business? I was walking through Shogunas today, and I had to ask myself, what has the borough of Shogunas done to better Shogunas? Good question. Good question. What has the borough done? And this is kind of what the MP is speaking about here. In a news release last Wednesday, Ratiram said officials of the Chaguanas Borough Corporation have stated that the malfunctioning sewer system requires frequent pumping daily, and as a result, the overworked pumps have broken down, with no funding available for their repair. A resolution in council was passed for upgrading the existing sewage infrastructure to a chlorinated septic system, but for this too, the Chaguanas Borough Corporation awaits financial releases from the Ministry of Rural Development and Local Government. So, the market vendors inside of the market are complaining, well, probably, first of all, the customers might be complaining, agreed, this market nasty. The market vendors are saying, agreed, this market nasty, and you're chasing away our customers, and you're putting our health at risk. The corporation that is in charge of the market is saying that the reason the market is in this dilapidated condition is because of the central government. They are not releasing the funds. Now, who do we blame? Because I am nearly sure that when asked, the central government is going to say that we have released the funds to the corporation. So it's the corporation that isn't doing their job. Who are we to believe? I want to see a receipt. I want to see a receipt. I want to see the government produce a paper trail showing that, listen, this is where we released the funds for the Chaguanas Borough Corporation to do the upkeep. Show me this, because I am fed up of this. I really am. It's so annoying. This is always what happens. Anytime, and this is the annoying thing about local government. Anytime something is going on in your local government, in your local area, and you want to get something done, you want to get a drain built, you want to get some lights, you want to get some lights for the savannah where the young people are playing in the savannah and playing till 8:30 in the night, but they have to use their night vision because there aren't any lights. And you want to discuss, okay, what is the step? They send you to this one, the corporation tells you it's the government tells you it's the corporation. It's ridiculous. Someone show me something on paper that says who is responsible for this. Who? Released funds not hard to find but might be illegal to publish. Show me the paper trail. Show me. And this is ridiculous. Like, when you think about it, think about this. Do you think if Chaguanas Market, because this is the one that has been brought up there, if Chaguanas Market was a private mall run by some private company, Massey or Ansa Makal or whoever, running this as a private mall, do you think that their sewage system would have reached to the point of that level of dilapidation, generally speaking? Not if it would affect their money. No, it won't. The thing is, the first question is, this sewage system, when was this market sewage system installed? How long ago? And why isn't it still up and functional? Isn't upkeep part of running this thing? Or do we do, like, this was one of the complaints I saw over there in Tobago. The Tobago House of Assembly, the new Tobago House of Assembly leader is complaining about the new Tobago House of Assembly house. It's so strange. The building that was built for the leader of the chief secretary of the Tobago House of Assembly is in some massively dilapidated condition. And when you read how much money was spent on this building, millions of dollars, barely 7 years ago. What am I saying 7 years ago? Barely 5 years ago. Millions of dollars. So how is it? Listen. If I spent 1 million on my home 5 years ago, I can assure you that right now, things would still be looking pretty prime and functional. So why are you telling me that's impossible to happen in the government services? That we don't do upkeep in government. We don't do upkeep. What we do is we install something more expensive than the market value, of course. We'd install some expensive something, pay a contractor a ridiculous amount of money to do it, and then leave it in that state until it fully falls apart. And then, you know what? Let's throw it away and install another one. This is basically what the borough is saying. They want to install now a chlorinator system. That's what they said. They want to upgrade to a chlorinator system. Now, here's the thing. I think that's a sensible upgrade. But Why is the central sewage system in the first place not lasting the time it should last? Why is it down in the first place? What happened to upkeep? I believe there are some street lamps in some places that have been lighting for nearly 100 years now. And we can't keep a toilet system in a market functional. You're right. So here's my issue with government and opposition. Shouldn't it be country first? Yes, it should be. We lack patriotic Trinidadians who have a proper vision for a better Trinidad. And I don't know if I would say we lack patriotic. I don't know if I'd use that word. Maybe it might be the correct word to use. But the way I phrased it is, the way I see this is that one of the issues, I think, this is my view, one of the issues I think comes from the history of Trinidad, the colonization history of Trinidad. And I said this before in another life. I think it has to do with the fact that we were brought here to make riches for someone else's country. So nearly everyone in Trinidad was brought here to eke out the wealth of Trinidad and send it to another country. We were brought here from another country to take out the wealth of this country and send it to another country. That's what Trinidad was created for. This country in its kind of present state. It was colonized. The Afro-Trinidadians, the Africans that were enslaved, were brought here as slaves to eke out as much wealth out of Trinidad and send over to Britain. The East Indian laborers that were brought here to eke out as much wealth and send over to Britain and keep some of that wealth for themselves and go back to India with the wealth. That was the original intention of a country like ours. So the people that came here didn't come here with the intention of making this a home, of making this mine. And I think, this is my view as I keep saying, I think we still have some of this in modern times, where many people don't have a view of Trinidad as a kind of mine. They have a view of Trinidad as in, what can Trinidad do for me? Now, many countries, so like if you go over, when people like to compare our country to other countries, and they compare us to ridiculous examples like Norway and Switzerland and Sweden, etc. That's ridiculous, because some of those people can trace their ancestors to that same patch of land for thousands of years. Now, the connection that they may have with that would be way different than someone who lives in Trinidad and Tobago and I barely have a connection to this place in the first place. I just want to see what best Trinidad could do for me. If I could get all the resources I could get from Trinidad and then move away from Trinidad with it, I'll be fine with that. And I think some of that is the reality of Trinidad and Tobago. Some of that is just the reality of the history of our country. And I think that has something to do with why so often it seems like nearly everyone on the Trinidad and Tobago ship is only seeing what they can take off of the ship. We are sailing on the ship and like everyone is trying to steal boards from the ship. They're trying to steal pieces of sail, cut off a little bit of rope. Everyone is trying to take pieces of the ship because this ship isn't my home. My home is somewhere else, and I'm just trying to see what best I can get from this before it all sinks. Yes, that has to stop. I agree. It has to stop, at least if we want this country to have some form of success. The MP noted that the meat vendors at the market have also encountered their fair share of woes, since all 3 meat chillers have been non-functional since last year, and the area from where they sell meat, which was designed to be an air-conditioned space, is now unsuitable since none of the 5 air conditioning units are operational. The MP said this in turn has reduced the hours during which seafood and meat can be sold if the vendors are to avoid spoilage. Now, this is directly a problem with upkeep. Anyone knows, listen, if you have an air conditioner in your little bedroom, you know you have to service that AC unit. If an AC unit is down, it is the fault of maintenance. That's obvious. If the chillers are down, the freezers are down, a freezer is basically a massive AC unit, in a sense. That's the fault of maintenance. Whoever is in charge of maintenance is not doing their job. Listen. I'm thinking, if I was the person directly in charge of maintaining the Shogunas market in the corporation, and Shoguana's vendor, because if I'm in charge of maintaining the market, I'll regularly be in the market. And then I came some Saturday morning, I pop in the market to just, see how things going out in the market here. But, hey, oh, George, how things, boy? And he say, hey, Nathan, the freezer, them stop working, boy. All right, one freezer. What is it? 5 freezers. One freezer stopped working. Wait, from the time one freezer stops working in the meat section in the market, I am looking to get that solved. If the government isn't releasing the cash for me to upkeep one freezer that has stopped working in the market, I would already be on the news if I was in charge of upkeeping the Shoguana's market. Now, for us to reach the stage where not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, all 5 of the freezers have stopped working. All the AC units, so these are the freezers, then inside of the general selling area is supposed to be air conditioned. All of the AC units have stopped working, and only after all of these things have happened since last year, this is now making as big of a stink in the news. That doesn't make sense. Listen, if I was in charge of upkeeping that in the Borough Corporation, if Trinidad and Tobago, the citizens of the Shoguana's Borough, were paying me to upkeep that market, I would have been on the road long time. You'd have seen me in front of the Red House. Because you cannot tell me the meat section in a market has lost the freezer and you aren't looking to fix that like the next day. I am sure I could speak to some AC techs. My brother and my eldest brother, not the one that does the teaching. My other brother, I do have another brother. He does HVAC. Big HVAC. I am pretty sure that if you call in the professionals, within one day, probably all 5 units might be back up. Within one day, probably all the air condition units might be back up. Really? What are you telling me here? Listen, I am sorry, Shoguana's Borough Corporation. I wouldn't doubt that there may be some politics and bureaucracy and red tape coming from the government side. I will not doubt that. But to tell me that all the freezers and the air conditions have stopped working since last year, and somehow that's the fault of the government not releasing funds, that's a stretch for me. I'm sorry, that's hard to believe. But in the government, they fix things with invoices, so no funds needed immediately. Look at that. That is a very good point, Rooney. That is a very good point. That's why right now there are a bunch of contractors trying to sue the EFCL, that's basically the construction side of the Education Ministry, for owed money because they went and did work for the Education Ministry before they were paid for it. So I am sure, you are right, Ronnie, I am sure if they were to call some AC tech, some refrigerator tech, they could write out an invoice for them and they would get that fixed. So someone isn't doing the work. This is the part that annoys me so much with governance, You're getting paid for a job. You have so much connections. I mean, the job, by the nature of the job, you have connections and power. I'm not even angry. Listen, if you're in a government portfolio and you have some special little job that you could hire your cousin for something and you hire your cousin, that honestly does not bother me. You want trusted people around you. Okay, I'm giving you that leeway. But oh gosh, for goodness sakes, do your job. For goodness sakes, do your job. It's really annoying. So is it an attempt to make the government look bad to score political points? Yes and no. It's also an attempt to not make themselves look bad too, because the finger is pointing directly at them as to why the market is in the state it is. But they're saying that it isn't all on us, it's partly the government's fault too. You can't just blame us. Yeah, I'd like to see the invoice. Show me, government, please show me that you have released those funds, or Shoguana's Borough Corporation, show us why it was impossible for them to just write an invoice, and as the government does with nearly every other thing, they'd owe you for it. Tell me why this was impossible. I want to know. Send me the name of the person directly in charge of the Shoguana's market. Let's come on the live, have a discussion. Tell me what are the problems involved with this. Why is this something impossible? Why is it impossible for someone in charge of the Shoguana's market? You're in the Shoguana's Borough Corporation. It's impossible for you to find some refrigerator tech. I'm sure Trinidad and Tobago has refrigerator techs. Call me if you want to find someone. I'll find someone for you. Why was that so hard? I'm confused. All right. That's all I have for now for you folks over on YouTube. Actually, it's all I have for now for all of you. I'm not doing any after live chat tonight. We'll have that tomorrow night. You know, we have to spread them out a little to make sure that I get some sleep in between. So I hope you are educated, informed, or entertained. The live was nice as per usual. Thank you for tuning in. I will see you again tomorrow in the next Mindful Live at 9:30 p.m. Be sure to tune in. Make sure to hit that like button, share that live. Go over to my YouTube channel, subscribe to Nathan Springer on YouTube, and I will see you then. Peace.